Donald Trump shocked everyone by posting a picture on his social media where he is depicted as Jesus Christ healing people. At the same time, the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Leo XIV, unexpectedly stated, quote, "I am not afraid of the Trump administration, and I am not afraid to speak openly about the message of the gospel, because that is exactly why I am here." This statement confused analysts even more, but it turned out that both events, the picture of Trump as Jesus Christ and the Pope's statement that he is not afraid of Trump, are pieces of the exact same story. After all, the day before, Trump sharply criticized the Pope, condemning his position on the war with Iran, and stated that the Pope was terrible for foreign policy, and called for the actual overthrow of the head of the Holy See, saying that he would not tolerate this. My name is Alexei Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, leave any comment under this episode and give it a like. And also subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News, the link to it is in the description of this video. So, Donald Trump has moved to open confrontation with the Pope after the latter refused to support his war against Iran. It got to the point where Pope Leo XIV was forced to publicly reject criticism from the US president, defending his position aimed at achieving peace and rejecting violence in the context of the war with Iran. Next, I will quote the Pope. "I am not afraid of Donald Trump's administration, and I am not afraid to speak openly about the message of the gospel, because that is exactly why I am here, and that is exactly what the church is meant for. We are not politicians. We do not approach foreign policy from the perspective that Trump might understand it. But I believe in the message of the gospel as a peacemaker." These comments from the Pope came after Donald Trump sharply criticized the Pope on Sunday evening, condemning his position on the war with Iran and stating that the current Pope, quote, "is terrible for foreign policy." The confrontation between the current US presidential administration and the Vatican has continued since early this year, because there have already been reports that the main representative of the Vatican in the United States was even summoned to a meeting at the Pentagon. And there they lectured him and asked, what's going on? Why is the Catholic Church speaking out against Donald Trump's war with Iran? Why is the Catholic Church condemning Trump for capturing the Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro? And basically at the Pentagon. Just a second. At the Pentagon, they demanded that the Holy See publicly support all the actions of the American president, stating that, well, the American president is actually the Messiah who came to bring order to the entire planet, no matter how crazy that sounds. And let me also remind you of that photo where, there's a prayer in the White House, and for some reason everyone is holding on to Donald Trump as if he's some kind of sacred object. Well, next they'll show a quote from Trump, literally a recent one. "We don't like the Pope who says that having nuclear weapons is okay. He believes that we shouldn't go to war with a country that wants to have nuclear weapons to blow up the whole world." I'll say this, I'm not a fan of Pope Leo XIV. I'll explain a bit later, but let me note right away that Pope Leo XIV never said that nuclear weapons are okay. Well, let me remind you that Trump once admired Pope Leo XIV. Leo XIV is the first American pope. Well, now he is speaking out more and more about the US and Israel's war with Iran, and last week he condemned Trump's rhetoric and threats against the Iranian people as completely unacceptable. This statement was prompted by Trump's threat that, remember, he wrote that tonight an entire civilization would perish. This was said just a few hours before a 2-week truce with Iran was concluded. And Trump, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, in his public statements during the conflict, always refers to God. At the same time, Pete Hegseth portrayed the military actions against Iran as divinely supported. He even used biblical justification. He said that God himself called us to fight against Iran. That is, Pete Hegseth tried in every possible way to present this war as a kind of crusade that the Catholic Church simply had to support. But Pope Leo XIV repeatedly spoke out against this idea and stated that Trump and Hegseth really shouldn't associate the name of Jesus Christ with their war against Iran. Quote from the Pope: "Jesus is the King of Peace, who rejects war and whom no one can use to justify war. Jesus does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, but rejects them. But as they say, Trump went even further. Trump unexpectedly published a similar lengthy criticism of the pontiff on the Truth Social website. He repeated himself a bit there, but expanded his criticism. Quote from Donald Trump: Pope Leo XIV is weak in fighting crime and terrible for foreign policy. I don't need a pope who thinks Iran should be allowed to have nuclear weapons, or who thinks it's terrible that America attacked Venezuela. I don't need a pope who criticizes the President of the United States. Leo XIV wasn't on any list of candidates for pope, and the church only included him because he was American, and they thought it would be the best way to deal with President Donald Trump. And in response to such comments from Trump, a Vatican official, Father Antonio Spadaro, stated that Trump targeted the moral voice because he couldn't restrain it. Now, let me explain. Here's a quote from Spadaro. Trump is not arguing with Leo XIV. He is begging him to switch to a language in which he can dominate him. But the Pope speaks a different language, in a language that refuses to be reduced to the grammar of power, security, and national interests.
Это нападение, заявление о бессилии.
If Leo XIV were of no interest to anyone, he wouldn't deserve a word. Instead, he is criticized, called by name, and fought against. This is a sign that his word wounds deeply. Well, it's worth noting here that, in fact, Pope Leo XIV had previously spoken out against the proliferation of nuclear weapons. In June of last year, Pope Leo XIV stated, quote, To build a safer world free from the nuclear threat, it is necessary to achieve respectful interactions and sincere dialogue in order to create a lasting peace based on justice, brotherhood, and the common good. And here it's worth remembering that it was moderate Catholics who helped Donald Trump get elected in both elections. In both his first term and the recent elections, it was specifically the Catholics. Well, apparently Trump no longer cares about the voters, and as a result, Donald Trump has, sunk even lower. And today he posted on social media an image where he is depicted as Jesus Christ healing a sick person, with American flags and eagles in the background. But no one has ever hit rock bottom like this before. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you consider the work of this channel important, interesting, and necessary, I encourage you to support it financially with your donation or a paid subscription. How can you do that? All the links and details are in the description of this video. It says, support Alexei Pechiy's channel. Choose any option that's convenient for you. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.